Hey everybody, welcome back to the news here on the Daily Report. Me, John Iadarola, and it being a Monday and all, Jayar Jackson joins us now.
What's going on, John Iadarola? How you guys feeling? Everyone just came in from the watch party on a Monday. Still, of course, the best damn day of the week. T-shirts should be incoming, I suppose. That's a great idea, someone said. I'm gonna make that happen.
That is.
Let's sell like 5 to 6, and I'll be happy about that.
I like it.
But still, it's not a good day in America, John Iadarola. It's not a good day.
No, rough news, which we'll of course be dealing with. I will say that I have a new hobby. Actually, myself and producer Mike have a new hobby. We do it for about 10 minutes a week. It's the 10 minutes leading up to the Monday episode of the show, where we're just like watching the watch party and we're like, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it? Is he gonna come over here as you finish up the show? But anyway,
I appreciate you pumping up the numbers, though. I mean, that's 2 more.
Thank you. And it's exactly what used to happen when I used to do my pre-pour before it'd be like, am I gonna make it? But anyway, look, we're gonna jump into the news, of which there is a lot. I don't know if anyone knew, but evidently Mad Max was based on a true story, and that true story is Washington, D.C. It's just roving bands of cannibals and scavengers and all that. But don't worry, Donald Trump's finally gonna clean it up and all of that. Before we jump into the news, though, I do want to thank, because I've been meaning to for days now. So Daniel sent in, as sometimes people in the audience do, fun little care packages or things that they've made, which is always really fun because we got so many talented people who watch the show. And he'd previously sent in some animals like this before for both myself and other people at TYT, but he sent in this little carved bear made of multiple types of wood, and it's so cute. I have the buffalo that had previously been sent in right here. So I'm gonna add the bear to the buffalo, and now they're gonna be friends back there. Thank you, Daniel, that was very nice of you. Yeah, and over the course of the next hour, we're gonna be discussing a lot, not only the invasion of DC and the annexation of it by the dear leader, but also how he's trying to give territory to Russia's dear leader and how that might fail. JD Vance trying and failing to distract and divert attention away from the Epstein cover-up, and a whole lot more besides. And coming up in the aftermath, we're gonna be talking about how Dean Cain is very angry at John Oliver for his recent episode of Last Week Tonight on immigration. We have terrible consequences coming to the owner of Trump Burger, that chain of restaurants, and Bernie Sanders, 2028. Could it still happen? We'll be discussing in the aftermath. But in advance of all that, please hit the like button, share the stream, send us your tweets, your super chats, all that stuff. You might earn yourself a Blueprint gift card. And with all that said, JR, are you ready to do this thing?
Yeah, sure.
Like, yeah. Okay, well, with that energy, we launch right into the big story of the morning.
This is Liberation Day in DC, and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the DC Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with DC, and we're going to clean it up real quick.
As you're, I'm sure, aware, Donald Trump followed up, literally years, but more recently, weeks of tweets and all that about how DC's a hellhole and I gotta save it and all that. And so he did this press conference where he announced that he was effectively seizing control of DC, and he cited a law saying, you know what it is. He hadn't, clearly, but he got his minions to find some excuse for him to do this. And over the course of that press conference, it became very clear that the situation was worse than we thought. Evidently, in the Epstein files. For him to go to these lengths to take over DC, my God, what is in those things? Because the distractions are getting really big and really fast, okay? And so, yeah, they're directly taking over the Metropolitan Police. National Guard have been dispatched. Soldiers are coming in. The FBI is now roaming the streets of DC at night as if specifically to stop them from doing their job investigating the Epstein files. He's like, no, you gotta get out there. You gotta be like checking like the meters or something. And so that's what he's doing. Now, the press conference, as it always is with Donald Trump, was a massive mishmash of insanity. Here's a little bit of a catch up on it.
We're going to be removing homeless encampments from all over our parks, our beautiful, beautiful parks, which now a lot of people can't walk on. They're very dirty. And we're getting rid of the slums too. We have slums here, we're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums. You're gonna see police, or you're gonna see FBI agents. We're gonna have a lot of agents on the streets. And you're gonna have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed, by the way. We're gonna have National Guard. The police are standing up there in uniform, they're standing, and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And they can hit real hard. They're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
That is, of course, not how the law actually works. But if the law doesn't matter anymore, which clearly in many ways in America in 2025, it does not. Yeah, I guess the cops can just brutalize people if they feel like it. I mean, if the cop feels that they've been disrespected, and obviously cops have very high bars for feeling disrespected. They're not like exactly the sort of people that feel disrespected casually like 24/7. Then they can just brutalize people. And Donald Trump is saying that, and Pam Bondi's standing behind him, pretending to believe that that's how the law works. Yeah, by the way, what I love about like being a member of the Trump administration is just every day you don't know what you're gonna wake up and have to pretend to have always believed. Like Pam Bondi a week ago was definitely thinking, yeah, we need the National Guard in the streets of DC. But now it's her job to come out and pretend that that is what she thinks now. And that's what she thought yesterday. And he says they'll bring in the full on military if they have to. I mean, spoiler alert, they don't have to. They didn't even have to do what they're doing right now. They're just choosing to do it despite, as is abundantly clear, and we've done these fact checks. CNN was doing a live fact check as the press conference was going on. Violent crime is at a 30-year low. Homicides are down, sex abuse is down, assault with a dangerous weapon is down, robberies are down big time just in the last year. And this is a trend that we've been seeing in DC and these other places, that he would try to convince his base who've never been to Baltimore, they've never been to Oakland, they don't know these places any more than he does, because of course Donald Trump doesn't actually traipse around these cities. He's either in a mansion or in a limo or in a private jet. Those are the only three places he's been for the past 50 years. But he's pretending that it's necessary. And that is, I guess, what you can do. You can launch an unprecedented federal takeover of DC without even the pretext of it being needed. It's not like crime went up 10% and he's exaggerating it. It is dramatically down, and it seems utterly irrelevant, Jayar, how many times people fact check that none of this is based in reality. What do you think?
It doesn't have to be. We've been saying it since forever, right? This guy is a fascist. That's who he is. They don't need rules. They don't need normalcy. They don't need reality. The whole purpose is to make something up and then go to that objective. The objective here is to send military and federalize police forces in as many cities that he needs to quell any kind of potential, because he's a coward, any kind of potential pushback. So that's why he named those cities, New York City, Biltmore, I think he said, and Oakland, but he said Biltmore because he's I cuss a lot on my hour, John, so I'm gonna try and get rid of that as I come to your show. But Biltmore, that dummy, said, and the reasons why he's got to get military and federalize the police and act like there's this huge crime wave in Washington, D.C. is because he's the crime wave in Washington, D.C. He needs to be prepared for when people are finally fed up with this and they do take to the streets. Oh, be prepared for, remember all the talk about who's gonna take away your guns? be prepared for that. Because when people finally start using them, what they're gonna do is start taking away your guns. Just like everything else they've lied about, that they've said that they're all about doing, that those Democrats are about, including, that distraction of the Epstein list. So one more thing about the slums that he's getting rid of. If there's slums in your country, in the city, I mean, he's from New York, lives in Florida, there's slums all over the place. Isn't that an indication of bad leadership? Isn't that an indication of the richest country in the history of the world not doing the job of being the richest country in the history of the world? If you got slums and you're gonna get rid of them, where are you gonna get rid of them to? They've already been gotten rid of, that's why they're slums. It's an indication of how crappy he is at his job. This guy could actually say, that crime is down in DC. In fact, it's down 30% since last year. It's because I'm here. He doesn't need to even say that anymore. He needs crime to be up so the criminal can walk in and act like crime is up and start cracking heads of American citizens who are doing nothing but defying him. So spitting is now going, I'm not following your lead.
It'd be the most amazing thing. I almost don't even want to give him the tip. Like 6 months after this, just say, hey, violent crime's down to 30 years low. I did it. It's already true. It's the easiest thing in the world, I suppose. But yeah, no, this is just artifice. This is what it's like to live in a fascist regime. It's just constant propaganda, explicit propaganda. At one point, Donald Trump is doing this press conference. We're gonna move on to more facts in a sec. He's doing this press conference. And he's got Pete Hegseth over one shoulder. He's got Jeanine Pirro over the other. It's just Fox News talking heads. That's all. This is just a TV show that they're running. They need a plot twist. The plot twist is DC's dangerous or something, I suppose. Well, let's talk about what is actually going on and how in some cases Fox is actually undercutting his attempt at a message.
What really I found troubling, I gotta tell you, as a lawyer, I found it troubling because I also practice law in the District of Columbia, is that the President of the United States would say that crime is out of control. I take exception to that. Crime is not out of control in the District of Columbia. And I would like to ask Mr. Trump, where were you last month when a 3-year-old child, Honesty Cheadle, was shot and killed as the result of crime in the District of Columbia? I didn't hear Mr. Trump speaking out then, and so I want Mr. Trump to do something for the district. Continue to have the federal officers partner with the district officers to try to bring down crime. But don't use this as a pretext to actually eradicate home rule, and that seemed to be what Mr. Trump is interested in.
And of course, he's been very clear about that. Now, that is a contributor to Fox News, Ted Williams, who is pointing out that what Trump is saying about crime is just not true. It's just not remotely true. You can see the numbers right here. They've been trending down for several years. There was a point where it was bad, if we could bring that up. And now it's trending down. It's lower than it was for years during his presidency. And again, to an earlier point that Jayar had made, there's like two ways that you could talk about this. Like even if you were serious or whatever. So let's say there's homelessness and there's slums. You could say, oh my God, this is America. And yet we have all of this. So I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna help those homeless people. I'm gonna help those people who've been forced in America to live in slums. That is worlds away from any way that he's ever talked about this. No. It's not that we have slums. It's that we have a country, and in our country, there are those homeless people and those slums. And don't worry, I'm gonna get rid of them. They're not a victim of a system that has like cast them aside, left them behind. I'm gonna get rid of them. And I'm gonna be really vague about what exactly that means. So Trump is announcing he's getting rid of homeless people. Where? Like, this is not a rhetorical question. Literally, where are you sending them? But the issue is, there's those of us who might ask that question and he's not gonna answer it. And then there's the people who the message is to and they don't care. They literally don't care. They have been trained on years of Jesse Waters that the homeless are a thing you get away from your area to presumably some area where I guess they're not gonna do the exact same thing. And let's just face like the dark reality. And I've said this before when we've had to talk about Jesse Waters. There is a number, I don't know exactly what the number is, of millions of Americans that if Trump literally just announced, we have created the world's biggest wood chipper and we are gonna begin feeding homeless people into it, they would cheer for that. I don't know if that's 5 million people, 20 million people. They do not care at all what happens to these people. Put them into the wood chipper, send them to the middle of the desert, let them die of exposure. They don't care. It's not a problem for the homeless people. The homeless people are a problem for them. And whatever is going on with the slum, and again, it doesn't even have to be based in reality. He's just picking and choosing some historically thought of black cities and saying those are the bad places. We're gonna clean them up or whatever. Again, to distract from Epstein and all of his failures and all of that. And meanwhile, the red states, your Mississippi's and all that have higher rates of gun violence than New York City, never talked about. It's not an issue. The closest they'll come is Atlanta. Okay, that's the closest they'll come to admitting this. And so that's like the bait and switch and the propaganda of this. It's all designed to try to put him back on more comfortable footing politically. Don't focus on the chaos internationally. Don't focus on the self-destructive trade policy, the rising prices, the falling employment, terrible jobs numbers that you have to fire people to cover up. Certainly do not think about the Epstein files, JR. No, there's these out of control 14-year-old black teens in DC. Master blasters dragging you out of your car. Focus on that. That's what he wants.
It's the same playbook. I mean, again, none of this is new. It's authoritarianism. It's Nazism. It's what they've done. There's a scapegoats that they always use to be the ones that you're supposed to be afraid of. If you're afraid of them, you're on the right side. And therefore, when you see us go after these folks, including unhoused folks, go after them because they're not really humans. You always lose people's humanity. And once they know enough people have detached from those people having any kind of human traits, you can do whatever you want to them. Look what we're watching happening in the Middle East, bro. Look at how much we're spending in annihilating human beings, newborn children. They looked up and saw enough of us. We're like, but they're being human shields with that lie. And they're ready for it. We watched our own American children be shot up in schools for decades. They're like, whatever, doesn't matter to me. They're like, this is great. I think the soil is nice and fertile now for those next steps. So now no matter who it is, all they have to do is say they're being criminals. They're criminals. Those folks that just stand there against you and say, I'm gonna film the criminal activity that you're doing, and you get attacked with pepper spray, they know enough people are gonna come back and go, but maybe they shouldn't have been there. They know that they've set the stage for that. So it's not like Donald Trump was the first to do it. He just took advantage of this many years of prep for it. So the only thing left is to look ahead, like people were doing during the campaign, and stop those next steps. Because the steps that they're putting in place, they've already set the stage for. And I saw someone point out, maybe we should look at those next steps of the 45 to 50% of the project 2025 that's been implemented already, and start stopping those next steps.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And by the way, I would love, we're showing you like CNN's like, hey, crime's actually down and all that. And there's been good, everybody's talking about it. They're actually like pointing out the facts. I would have loved to have seen that last year, actually, when Trump was running on the same myths. I would have loved to have seen that when it really mattered.
And John, what does it do, right? What does it do? What's that guy? Sorry, that guy who on Fox News who said,
Ted Williams.
I want to ask Donald Trump this, if crime is so down, don't ask him anything. Donald Trump doesn't answer those questions. He doesn't care. He doesn't care that he's a liar. As we've seen poll numbers have him so low, he goes, poll numbers are at 98%. He doesn't care. So asking him is to get people to see him as a hypocrite. The people who support him don't care that he's a hypocrite. They like the authoritarianism. There's no asking questions anymore.
That's true.
That's over.
Yeah. By the way, in terms of not answering questions, can we just finish with graphic 7? It sums up perfectly what all of this was about. The president ends his news conference ignoring shouted questions about the Epstein case. Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about the criminals that might be unveiled in the Epstein case. By the way, this is what I'll close on. Donald Trump's like, there's these roving mobs and gangs. Just picture some really scary black 16-year-olds or whatever. And a lot of that is invented. But there was actually, admittedly, there was a gang in DC, a violent mob of people. They tried to overturn the results of an election. And what did Donald Trump do for the hundreds and hundreds of violent thugs in that crowd, he released them back out into the world, where many of them recidivated and committed other crimes. He's talking about like, oh, you're disrespecting cops. You get in their face, you scream at you spit at them. That's when the shooting should start or whatever. Yeah, those people tried to kill cops. Some of the cops did die actually, and he set them all free. He set every single one of them free. And again, the fact that MAGA doesn't get that hypocrisy, even when it's violence against cops, gross. Okay, we're gonna take a short break. Lots more to get to after this. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna jump into some comments. I'm gonna mention to Jayar that I'm very excited that the Sparks are still in the hunt for a spot in the playoffs. They beat the Storm, had a harsh loss to the Valkyrie, but it's been good games recently.
I gotta get on board, man. I never watched over the weekend. I'm too busy doing nonsense. I might as well get on the WNBA. I was on it last year.
Season.
This season, I don't know why I haven't caught on yet.
Oh, well, there's like a few games left. They could potentially get it. We don't know. It's very exciting. Anyway, Patrick Safford says, I'm actually surprised that Trump hasn't yet signed an executive order declaring the Constitution is no longer valid. I mean, he said it, kind of. Jumpin' Jank Flash, that's a funny name in the members' comment, says, I know it's not politically correct to brutalize homeless people. Yeah, it seems kind of cruel when you word it that way, doesn't it? Exactly. But appealing to many of the Republicans. Again, Fox News has been demonizing the homeless and getting people to see them as like weeds, basically. It's just disgusting stuff that's grown up that you step over and you just try to get rid of it. That's like half of Jesse Waters' career at Fox News. Rebel Dragon says, woohoo, Jayar Monday, love you too, John. Well, thank you so much, very nice of you. Nana Dragon make a similar point that I did, saying funny how Trump didn't support the police on 6 January. Yeah, I really wonder, what are you thinking if you're like you're an FBI agent and you're like in the middle of the night in DC harassing homeless people now. And you know it's just a distraction, it's just propaganda. Like your whole career now is just a tool for some fascist a-hole to use to distract a little bit from Epstein, score a few points at the base. Goddamn disgusting. Ryo Rao says, social media makes crime look more prevalent. People like watching crime happen. It's why Cops has so many episodes. That's a great point. And when Ted Williams was talking, they were playing like, store footage of like, a kid walking in the store. He's gonna steal something. I bet they've played that video 10,000 times. And so what does it matter if retail theft is down? I saw that video. The video keeps playing. Remember when they took like the fiery footage of like riots in 2020? And like they'd be doing a segment and it's like August and it's like May, there's a fire in the city. Like, why are you still playing that like 6 months later? Like, were there no more recent fires? Doesn't that kind of prove our point if you have to use ancient ass footage to make it seem like stuff is chaotic? Anyway, Long Beach Dragon, member for 29 months, says Trump is just butthurt that the decrease in crime rates far exceeds his approval rating, so he has to make S up to make himself look better. He wants to say we're gonna have a golden age, everything's gonna be great. And he claims that it is at the exact same time that he claims that everything is a hellhole, because it has to be. Because if things weren't a hellhole, you wouldn't be scared and desperate enough to put a maniac like him in charge. Let's see. Skittlebutt Dragon Wrath says, since red states won't fix their gun violence problems, President AOC can send in the troops to restore law and order. Yes, she can. No, like with all that Trump has normalized, she can do anything she wants. You can we have a border emergency, we have a trade emergency, we have an emergency in DC. Doesn't have to be based on anything. The trade emergency is negative trade imbalance. And that's enough that he can just, every day, he just changes our tariffs or whatever. Well, I guess we can do the exact same thing. AOC could just run amok across America because the conservative movement has told us the president can do whatever the hell they want. They literally cannot break the law. So I look forward to that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, everybody, if you're just joining us now, please hit the like button as we jump into this.
I have to say, Maria, I laugh at the Democrats who are now all of a sudden so interested in the Epstein files. For 4 years, Joe Biden and the Democrats did absolutely nothing about this story. We know that Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of connections with left-wing politicians and left-wing billionaires. And now President Trump has demanded full transparency from this. And yet somehow the Democrats are attacking him and not the Biden administration, which did nothing for 4 years.
You know what's slightly more suspicious and interesting than the Democrats not having been interested and now being interested? The Republicans previously being interested and now wanting nothing to do with the Epstein files. And that's kind of the problem for JD Vance there. Like, we have a cover-up. We have a massive cover-up, one of the biggest scandals in living memory. And what he has for us is the Democrats are just pretending to care about the thing your base cares about more than anything else. That's not the issue. The issue is what you are doing. And the bringing up the connections, you idiot, you goddamn doink. Oh yeah, Epstein's got a lot of connections to those liberal billionaires. Does anybody, can you think of a single person he has more connections to than Donald Trump? Vague assertions like that, JD Vance, are not going to distract people from the fact that he was Trump's buddy for decades, okay? And you could keep saying Trump wants transparency as much as you want, and I'm sure you will. But if that is the case, release the damn documents. Where are they? You keep doing these interviews, you keep doing your meetings, you don't keep releasing the documents though, and at the end of the day, that's the only thing people really want. So all of that sucked. Let's see if he's got anything better.
Was it the right move for Comer to send subpoenas to the Clintons?
It absolutely was, and it drives home how, while the Democrats have tried to make this Epstein thing about anything but, the fact that Democrat billionaires and Democrat political leaders went to Epstein Island all the time. Who knows what they did, but it's totally reasonable to ask these questions. What you saw in the House's subpoena is they are trying to investigate all of the things related to this particular case. I know a lot of Americans want answers. I certainly want answers. And I think James Comer and the team of the House, they're doing the right thing. And of course, we know that Clinton, or allegedly he went to the island 26 times, 28 times. Totally appropriate for Comer to be asking what was going on at that island.
He is the fakest, slimiest politician. He makes Ted Cruz look authentic. Like it's like his curse. He's never allowed to say a thing that he actually believes. Instead, it's just this Pinocchio thing, this act that he has to do. No, you're super worried about. Oh yeah, got to get Hillary and Bill in there. What about Trump though? Because like maybe Bill did go. Talk to Bill. Trump was on the plane a bunch of times. Trump's name is in the Epstein files over 1,000 times. And the thing is, like, he has to pretend that it's good that Comer is now hauling people in. Well, if you're hauling people in who might be involved in this, what possible argument can you make for not hauling Donald Trump in at this point? What possible argument? And I know that Comer's not going to do it because Comer is as fake as JD Vance. But if we spend the next year bringing in Hillary and then Bill, we're going to talk to him, I'll get Bill Gates in here. Well, then if the Democrats take over the House, we've now said the normal thing to do is haul people in who are involved in this thing. It's probably time to talk to Donald Trump. And now that JD Vance is in the administration and is actively participating in the cover-up, has been in these meetings, maybe we need to haul him in there too, because he knows what's actually in there. Why isn't he saying? He's pretending that like the only way we can find something out is by bringing in Bill and Hillary or whatever, and not releasing the stacks of documents that they already have that we know 1,000 FBI agents combed through. Again, he is doing everything he can to pretend that he cares about this because he knows the base has hated their response to this. But this isn't good. It's not masterfully done, not even close. Jayar, what do you think?
So oddly, this is the result of this secret meeting that they said they didn't have, but they actually had. This is the result. The result is send JD Vance's dumbass out on TV to start talking about this in ways that everyone can see straight through the middle of, as he thinks he's so like let me just talk to you about this, Maria. Like nobody's buying this, bro. Matter of fact, this is the biggest indication that they actually don't care that people know what they're covering up, is to send JD Vance out there with his big head to talk about this. So we're supposed to believe JD Vance after all this. I think I heard you talk about how that meeting that they said they weren't gonna have, they actually had before they said that they weren't gonna have it. That's how bad these lies are. And they want people to believe that all JD Vance has to say is Bill and Hillary Clinton, Democrat. But you know who we didn't name? Since we're talking Democrats and libs, how about maybe some Democratic leaning CEOs and billionaires and millionaires and people that were probably part of this whole thing? He won't name any of them because they still got money and they can still control his ass. But what he needs to do is hit the trigger words of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Go after them then, bro. Go after them. I have a great idea. Expose all of it.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, you're right. Forget the Trump thing. Bill and Hillary. Yeah, I really do want to get to the bottom of that. Can we release those documents? Because I'd love to see if Bill and Hillary are in there. And Trump got a little bit of bad news. It just came out this morning. A judge has once again said they will not unseal the grand jury papers, the Epstein and Maxwell cases. Now, obviously, this is theoretically bad news for everyone because we want to know what's in there. But that was designed to be the thing where, like, instead of you getting to the meat of the matter, they take a little thing and they say, you can have that, but you can't have that. So distraction doesn't exist now. So once again, I ask, when the hell are we gonna get the documents, JD Vance? You can mumble whatever fake BS you want. If it doesn't answer the question, why haven't you released the documents? I don't give a damn. I'll add another question. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell like in like a 4-star resort right now? Why is she hanging out and having fun with puppies and yoga and everything? Is that not gross? She sexually assaulted kids. Why is she staying in a resort? Why has your administration made that possible? And why are you distracting from that? Why has JD Vance not gone even an inch further than Trump in acknowledging the suffering of the victims? They don't want to be anywhere near those people. They talk about wanting to get to the bottom of it. They pretend that there are no victims, that nobody was actually victimized, okay? It's just Bill was there, I don't know, on the island masturbating or something, because there were no other people there, I guess, to hear them tell it. No, this does not fly. It's not convincing anyone. Now, we do have to move to very different material. We'll stay on the story. We'll be back on it, on tomorrow's show. We'll see if at some point Todd Blanche is supposed to do his big press conference or go on Joe Rogan or something. We'll see how that works out. But for now, why don't we turn to this? Donald Trump is apparently going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday, and he gave us an idea recently of just how far we think that meeting will go.
President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done.
Will Zelensky have to give up territory, Mr. President?
Well, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories.
Oh, yeah, it's not easy, it turns out. That's weird because I actually was told by someone, I can't remember who, that they could get it done on the day one, and we're hundreds of days into this, and apparently it's still not easy. But don't worry, there's gonna be swapping. We're gonna swap. Wait, so what's the swap? Russia gets some Ukrainian land and Ukraine gets some Russian land? What, they're gonna get Arkhangelsk or something? What exactly, some of the suburbs of Moscow? What swapping is going on? And the reason he's fumbling and bumbling with the swap something is because the current plan, what he is going to present to Zelensky, is giving Putin all of the territory that he currently holds after the illegal and barbaric invasion that, yes, did kill a lot of people. Notice Trump mentioned the Russians who had died first. He obviously has priorities in terms of which ones he cares the most about. They have stolen a bunch of territory, and Donald Trump is going to try to pressure Zelensky to just give it over to Vladimir Putin. And we're going to return to that in just a moment. But first, I want to move away from Trump into one of his favorite lapdogs. That's Lindsey Graham weighing in on this.
Do you believe that Ukraine should sign a deal that includes giving up any part of their territory, Senator?
Well, think about East Berlin and West Berlin as a way a conflict can be settled, at least for a period of time. North Korea and South Korea is in a state of truce. There's never been a final settlement. But I come on your show a good bit. I want to be honest with you. Ukraine's not going to evict every Russian.
As we talk about these potential land swaps that you're discussing, this was during your visit to Ukraine. You said, quote, "You don't end wars by giving territory to the aggressor. If Putin is not stopped here, he will keep going. And that increases the chances that there will be a war between Russia and NATO." Senator, if Russia is allowed to annex some of those regions, won't that effectively be a green light for Russia to go into and invade other countries?
Okay, so in response to that, let's go into a little bit of what he had to say. He said that we should keep arming Ukraine, which is not explicitly what the question was about. It was about the land swaps that Trump is talking about. Put some European forces on the ground and build up economic integration. That's nice. If Putin were to invade Ukraine again, he would be fighting more than just Ukraine, having some European forces on the ground as tripwires. So that's nothing. So let me just, setting aside Lindsey Graham, here's what Donald Trump would have you believe. So they invade and conquer Crimea. They're allowed to keep it. A couple years go by, they invade Ukraine, and now Trump is saying we're gonna let them keep it. And the idea is that they're not going to try to conquer the rest in a couple of years. Why? What possible reason would Putin have to not rebuild, rearm, and conquer it in 2 or 3 years? Donald Trump has already shown that he will fold. He'll fumble and bumble through the diplomacy for 6 months or whatever. At the end of it, what do we have? Okay, day one, Putin wanted all the territory. Now day, I don't know, 180, Putin wants all the territory and Trump is saying he can have it. What has Trump done? What has Trump gotten? What is this swap that's, you can't swap me my land. That's all Ukraine. It doesn't matter if it's been illegally taken over for a couple of years or whatever, it's theirs. If Mexico was to invade southern US and hold to Austin until 2029, would it then de facto be theirs? And maybe we can swap a little bit. I want a little bit of Laredo, you can get some of the hill country. Who the hell thinks that's how we would treat American territory? And yet that's what he's apparently going to side with Putin on. It is going to be him and Putin facing Zelensky and telling him, no, you give up your land, you give up your sovereignty, and you enjoy the next couple of years before it's all Russian territory. It's BS, and thankfully, Zelensky has responded in saying that that's not going to happen. He's not going to be giving land to the occupier. Okay, JR, what do you make of this?
That's Donald Trump's problem. He doesn't like that Zelensky will say something like that. He doesn't like that Zelensky will stand up for his country the way that Donald Trump always says, I have nothing against anyone actually standing up for their country. I'm just saying it can't be unfair to us. So that's why he was mumbling and stumbling through that whole first answer, is because he has a problem with finding out what it is that they're actually gonna do, because he hasn't gotten the orders yet from Vladimir Putin. When they ask, how's this gonna work? He goes, it's actually pretty complicated. It's because you have no idea what's gonna come next. And also like, Zelensky needs to get his things together, get things in order before he to sign something. What does he have to get together? Why does he have to get things together? What are we talking about? He doesn't know. He's taking orders. And as far as whether or not Vladimir Putin is going to continue down the same road that we all know he would go down, Donald Trump had a moment of frustration before during these negotiations as Putin kept attacking and said, he's crazy. He doesn't listen to anything. Why doesn't he calm down? I'm so disappointed in him. You already pointed out that he's off the rails and you can't control him. So why would we suddenly believe that you can control him now? What changed outside of, Lindsey Graham changing his positions based off of whether or not Donald Trump tells him to? They need to have more of those instances where Lindsey Graham and people like him get cornered with their own rejection of reality just for the sake of Donald Trump. And after they do it, then say, Lindsey, at what point are you going to stop carrying water for Donald Trump? Because it's pretty obvious that you believed one thing before he told you to believe another thing. What usefulness do you have as a senator in this country? As a matter of fact, why haven't people voted you out yet? Just ask him directly, because he's exhibiting exactly what we're seeing. Can we all see some reality in front of us now and stop being polite to fascists?
100%. By the way, like they all think that he's like this strong guy, master diplomat, deal maker, and strong. Who couldn't have gotten this deal? You don't think Harris could just give Putin everything he wants? I think she could have figured out a way to give him everything he wants. Sleepy Joe could have given Putin everything he wants. You could have thrown me and Jayar in there as the head negotiators. We could figure out a way to give him everything he wants. That's not tough. How is this impressive? Donald Trump on the economy with the tacoing and the weird evasions to try to avoid accountability on Epstein. Out of all of this, he is just a pathetic little nothing bitch. That's all he is. He's not getting us anything. He's just giving in and giving in and giving in. It's ridiculous. We're gonna take a short break. We'll have more ridiculousness after this. I was just thinking with what Jayar was saying about hypocrisy, both in that segment and the previous one. I think I've figured it out. So previously, we had the term hypocrisy, and we in the news or whatever, like Jon Stewart would do on the Daily Show, you would point out hypocrisy by showing what a person believed and what they now believe, and that was interesting. But like, I don't think people have really thought about why that was interesting or why it was important. It was not because of what was being said, but because of what was being not said. And what was unspoken was the assumption that people believe the same thing over time, that they have principles. I think that's the issue we have right now, is that we still pretend that's the world we live in. I don't think we should be pointing out hypocrisy. We should be coming at it from the opposite direction. We should have a word for the increasingly rare times when a person does actually have a principle over a period of years, because that almost never happens anymore. And it's amazing when you see it. Hypocrisy is a useless term. Nobody cares anymore. We just all expect that we're being lied to constantly. We should have something else that gives well-deserved points for a person who isn't 100% two-faced. I don't know what that word should be. Maybe we can figure something out. For now, though, we're gonna jump into some comments like badgering the witness in a super chat saying invading DC to distract from Trump being a PDF file. 100%. By the way, I wanna quickly respond to something I saw on social media. It was a person who was really mad that people were calling the takeover of DC a distraction. Because like, oh, it's just a distraction to you because it doesn't affect you. And look, it is possible that some people use that term that way. I wanna be very clear, and we've said this for a long time, pre-Trump second term, back when like we would call the attacks on the trans community distraction. I have never, ever meant by that it doesn't matter or doesn't have consequences. If you are like feeling a lot of pressure, and so you set your house on fire to distract people, you still have to put out the fire, but you should also acknowledge that it was a distraction. Distractions can be very damaging. They can be very consequential. So we do both. We take it seriously as the next step towards fascism that it is, and we did that. It was literally our A block. It is important. That's why we're prioritizing it. But we are also pointing out that it is intended to distract, okay? You can have deathly serious distractions in this dark period we're in. So don't get it twisted when we use that term. We don't mean that it's not important or that we're not gonna talk about it. Anyway, anyways, Smoke Bomb says if it's brown, knock it down, Trump. That's, I mean, as we're gonna get to in the aftermath, that's sort of their argument in terms of ICE. MK Verana says, John, did you forget your catchphrase already? He who protects the nation breaks no laws or something like that. Yeah, that was a fun period. We were just throwing that out constantly. Anyway, well, she who saves her country breaks no laws. That is definitely as true today for next President AOC as it was then. Okay, Corey Brown in the super chat saying, so the Nazi Olympics was 90 years ago. Based on the points on the board, Trump and company trying to speed run the lead up to WW2. Curious what country will invade/annex to protect ethnic Americans. I don't even know if they'll use that as the excuse, but I will say, and I almost don't want to put it back out into the environment. He has kind of backed off the, we're gonna take over Canada and make it a state, Greenland, Panama. Remember, he was doing that every day, okay? Now it's mostly just focused on we're gonna turn Gaza into a resort. That was the thing he was talking about a lot. Ashman Isle says Vance is so slippery because his wife wrapped all the couches with plastic. Gross, but thank you. And Badgering says, why is our VP an overfed chipmunk? That's a great question and it needs to be answered. We'll be back with more after this. Apologies, we ended the social break. I think it's badgering the witness. It was cut off, unfortunately, I couldn't see. But you had a great comment. If you haven't gotten a Blueprint gift card yet, please send an email to rewards@218network.com with your handle, and we will get you hooked up with that. And with that said, why don't we move on to some more news? A Republican was confronted on Fox News about Trump's utter mismanagement of the economy, and you will never believe how he responded.
Americans largely disapprove of the economic policies of this president, at least right now. 55% say they disapprove of his job on the economy, 44% approve. Can you explain those numbers?
Well, I think a lot of people are seeing higher prices. Our family's in the construction business, and we get a lot of our timber from Canada and other countries. Yes, it's higher. Steel prices are up, but it's for the good of the country. And should we expect high prices for a short time? Yes. You can't go on, poll numbers vary. They come up, they go down. But the bottom line is he's doing the right thing, and it couldn't come at a better time.
That is Ralph Norman, and this is important that you know that because he's running for South Carolina governor right now. And I would just say this to South Carolina, he thinks rising prices are a good thing, and he couldn't be doing it better at a better time, rising prices. Again, the polls were right. He's facing a lot of disapproval on the economy. Thankfully, for Trump's sake, the economy isn't a thing that affects elections or whatever. Nobody actually cares about that. But I loved his point, JR. Polls go up, polls go down. Well, hold up a second, because at least so far in this term, they've only gone in one direction. It's not like Trump got down to 45, then up to 55, then no. His tariff policy is ping-ponging back and forth. That's not the polls, though. Don't get them mixed up. I know you're elderly or whatever, but that's not actually what's happening. And his argument doesn't make any sense. Higher prices are not good. People hate that. That's what they ran on this last time. And he says it's for the good of the nation. I haven't seen any evidence of that. I don't think most voters think that Donald Trump just choosing to raise prices 10 to 30% is somehow good for them. And he also said there, JR, raise prices for a limited time. Follow-up question, Ralph Norman. Why would it be for a limited time? These tariffs don't have a sunset date. He's just set higher. There is no country in the world where the prices are not higher than they were. It's at least 10% tariff. It's higher in many cases, 20, 30, 50, 100, whatever, but it's at least 10%. Trump has never talked about taking that off eventually. That's just now it's a higher price, and it's always gonna be a higher price, and inflation is going up and all that. And so this is terrible for Donald Trump in terms of the polling. Ralph Norman now feeling like he has to latch onto this because he can't be seen to be independent from Donald Trump. That certainly should hurt him in South Carolina. That remains to be seen. But Jayar, what do you make of this?
Yeah, just because a guy is old and has white hair and goes on TV and he's a congressman doesn't mean that he knows what he's talking about or that he has the best interest for you. We have this weird thing where we like to just listen to guys just because they say we're supposed to listen to them. This guy is a loser. This guy is looking to rob you. This guy who says he's in this business and prices have gone up on the supplies, what he said, lumber, whatever the hell business that he's in, his family is in. I feel like he's admitting he has no problem with prices going up because he'll just pass those on down. Why would he be concerned with prices going up when whatever it is that he's in the business of, just prices go up and he makes more money off of it? We know how this works, but he eliminates that part because he thinks people are stupid because he's got white hair and he talks with that stupid ass accent as if he's smarter than anyone else. This guy is a thief. This guy hates Americans. I talked about him earlier on the watch party. You know what this guy said about how they're sweeping up people on American streets, including veterans and American citizens through their raids? He goes, I don't care about that stuff. It doesn't matter to me. He's talking to American citizens. So if he doesn't care about them in those situations, why the hell would he care about them and their prices going up? And why would it suddenly be a good thing? He couldn't even finish their bad argument that, prices are gonna go up and then we're gonna manufacture more here in America. And after we manufacture here more in America, and it takes 15 to 20 years for one plant to get put together. Then after that happens, we'll be making more money off of that. Because he's not gonna do that. He would have to then admit that his business that was gonna benefit from this will have to suddenly start operating in America more, and if they don't already. He just says things. It doesn't mean that it's smart. It means that he's lying to you.
Yeah. And again, because Donald Trump doesn't understand how tariffs work or is lying, and doesn't understand how trade imbalances work or is lying, they all have to pretend to not understand it. They all do. Everybody, it's like the emperor walking naked down the street, and we all have to pretend that he's wearing clothes. We get drawn into the facade. And so Ralph Norman has to pretend all of this stuff. But it's not true. We are paying for this. Average tariff, our producers note, 17%. Donald Trump decided, I'm just going to raise on average 17% the price of anything we bring in from another country. And remember, of course, they have tariffs against us now. So our companies are also gonna sell less abroad because of that. So that's gonna hurt our companies, gonna hurt employment, that sort of thing. He just chose to do that. Who voted for that? Who said, I want you to snap your fingers, 17% higher prices, of which, although Donald Trump kept saying for some reason, again, it was never true that foreign countries would eat the tariffs. Our businesses and our consumers pay about 75% at the very least of that added cost. We are being taxed massively, tens of billions of dollars a month. Apparently, Trump keeps bragging. Who asked for this? Who wants this? But this is what he's doing. And the thing is too, there's a lot that when a rational president gets back in, they can snap their fingers and they can fix, but they can't fix all of this. They can fix some of it, but I will remind everyone that when we were in COVID and we had all the supply chain issues and everything, and so prices went up, right? Because supply chain, blah, 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 lots of problems. Well, once there weren't the supply chain issues, did the prices go back down to what they were like before? No. And so when the tariffs are gone, let's say we evaporate them. Okay, the prices will probably go down somewhat. Do you think the companies are gonna bring the prices back down to where they were at before all of this? No, it'll be normalized at that point. Donald Trump has just given to these companies the ability to price gouge you. And why wouldn't he? He's friends with them, he's not friends with you. He owns stock in those companies far more than you and I do. This entire thing is a big sham. It's rigged to benefit him and his buddies. And they call it populism. Anyway, we're gonna move on in just one sec to more corruption. But first, Rage Rock for Now says in a super chat, hey John, make sure to confirm for us if News Nation really is gonna rebrand itself as Chris Cuomo's Adventures in Deep Fake Detection. I forgot about that story. That was very funny. And I'm glad that people enjoyed that clip, by the way. You're familiar with the Jayar of Chris Cuomo getting fooled by the most obvious.
I can't even call it a deep fake. I feel like a deep fake has to be hard to discover.
No, it is a shallow fake at the worst. That is so embarrassing. I would not log on for days. Anyway, let's jump into this next story. Corruption is everywhere in Washington now more than ever, but Trump wants to pretend against all evidence coming out every day that somehow he's anti-corruption and he's anti-elite, despite being a billionaire who is enriching himself more than anyone else in the country right now in a million different ways. So he needs a distraction. So right now, he's pointing his base at Nancy Pelosi. And he put this up on True Social. Crooked Nancy Pelosi and her very interesting husband beat every hedge fund in 2024. In other words, these two very average minds, does he not think they have minds? Beat all of the super geniuses on Wall Street, thousands of them. It's all inside information. Is anybody looking into this? She is a disgusting degenerate who impeached me twice on no grounds and lost. How are you feeling now, Nancy? So here's the thing. Has Nancy Pelosi used insider information to personally enrich herself and her family? Yes, we have been talking about that for literally years. She has definitely done that. You know who else who's done that? Everyone in DC who can, all of them. That's why it should be illegal. It should not be a thing of just don't choose to do it. Don't be a degenerate. You should not legally be allowed to do that. And we've called for that. But you know who has the shakiest ground in the country to be pointing their finger at her? Donald Trump. And you know how I know that? Because I've been conscious for the last decade, but in particular and recently. So they in Congress have this bill that's working its way through to ban stock trading, finally, for members of the government. And in that bill, they have a specific carve out so that Donald Trump will not be affected by it. So as he's like, she's a degenerate, she's using insider information, they're like, oh, we really want to get a handle on this, but Trump will lose his mind if he can't be corrupt. So we're going to change it so it doesn't go into effect for the president until after his term is done. It is a carve out for one man, a corruption loophole for Donald Trump. And honestly, as if he needs it. The dude has done every day. There's another grift. There's another massive private jet. There's another payout or lack of or deregulation for the crypto industry that he's now in. Every day he finds some way to personally enrich himself, and yet just go for Nancy Pelosi. That's it. And honestly, it's a great evasion, distraction. They'll love it. They're probably not even gonna end up passing that bill, JR. That's my suspicion. And along the way, he's doing other stuff that doesn't get as much media attention. So he recently did this executive order allowing private equity to use these alternative investment mechanisms or whatever. And that can now get in on the 401k game, which they've been wanting to do for literally years. It's this massive thing that generally was protected. So more reliable investments were the only ones that can make up your 401k because people's future relies on that. We don't want some tricky pizzicky thing that Wall Street cooked up so they can make bank right now, and sure, it'll blow up or whatever. We don't want that in our retirement funds, but Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about your retirement. He gives a damn about Wall Street, so he just opened the way for more of that, including, by the way, cryptocurrency, which means that he will benefit from this. Him and his family, which not only owns individual coins, but exchanges for cryptocurrency, are going to personally enrich themselves off of this. And so did Nancy Pelosi use sensitive information to enrich herself? Yes, and I think she should be investigated. Donald Trump is signing executive orders to give himself more economic opportunities. It's insane. What do you think, Jim?
I remember when this guy first came in and there was all these conversations about him enriching himself through his businesses and divesting and making sure his dumbass children will actually pay attention to it and he's gonna not have anything to do with it. That was like the very beginning. And people were talking about this doesn't make any sense. Look at where we are and how normalization of bad behavior really works. And the only way that he thinks he can continue to distance himself from that or get off on a get out of jail free card is to bring up Nancy Pelosi, just out of nowhere. Just like when JD Vance brought up Democrats when it comes to the Epstein, or then when he was still trying to cover up more of Epstein. Let's bring up Obama and Clinton, just anything you can. It's like, hey, go look that way. And it keeps working. Look at the way that he bragged about his billionaire friends making money off of his head fakes when it came to his tariff policies first coming into place. And he said, look how much money he made. He bragged about it standing in the middle of the White House. Like, look, he made all that money. I act like we're gonna do tariffs. We did it for a second and then I backed off it and then the market rebounded right in time for them to make tons of money. He's so smart. He's bragging about doing exactly what it is that he's accusing other folks of. But as long as he says Nancy Pelosi, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, it's get out of jail free card time. And you know what? It's worked this long for him because we're that stupid.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you the last two things that we talked about together to end this thing. Like, this stuff is so see-through for us, but unfortunately for MAGA, it never will be. Like, they're angry. They know that they're being abused by the elites. It is the easiest river to divert ever. Just point them at Nancy Pelosi or a trans butterfly swimmer or whatever. But the thing that they can't divert as readily is the economic damage. Like, when they destroy your 401k, you're gonna notice that, I think. And then look at people's rising disapproval for Trump on the economy. That is a thing that is changing. Every month that number is changing a point or two because people actually see it. And it's not as easy to distract them. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they won't vote based on that in the midterms. Maybe they'll be convinced that, yeah, we got to get rid of those DC slums or whatever Janine Pirro said to me. But at least they are noticing how his economic policy is not working. Anyway, with that said, I'm gonna read a comment or two. We're gonna end things on this first hour. Gargoyle Dragon says in a super chat, White House excuse for not letting Trump testify. He's obviously suffering from mental decline due to family-related dementia, years of drug use and being a convicted fraudster. Who would believe him? It's a great point. Anyway, with that said, thank you everybody for joining us for this first hour. We got more coming up to the aftermath though, so if you're watching live, don't go anywhere. We'll be back on the other side of this. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. Lots of news to get to. But before we get to that news, I remembered one thing that I did want to mention about the last story. Donald Trump, in his little Truth Social thing, in all the other terrible stuff that he says or whatever, he throws in this one little point of crooked Nancy Pelosi and her very interesting husband. Do you get what he's doing there? That's not about the crookedness or the stocks or whatever. That's him referencing back to the jokes and stuff that they came up with after Donald Trump and his movement worked a madman into a frenzy, tried to go and assassinate Nancy Pelosi, and instead nearly murdered her husband. And then to distract from all of that and how terrible and how we'd crossed a dark line that we never should have crossed. Oh, what was he doing with a man in his underwear? That's what Donald Trump is doing there. Donald Trump, who should never, ever mention Paul Pelosi in his life after what he did, is instead years later advancing this idea that like, no, it wasn't actually about the stuff that it was explicitly about. No, that was just a gay hookup that got him hit in the head with a hammer. That's what Donald Trump is doing there. So like, if anybody ever makes you feel bad about criticizing Donald Trump or looking ahead to the day when he finally leaves us or celebrating on that day or popping champagne on the episode of the Damage Report that you're hosting that day, I want you to remember stuff like that. It is earned, okay? Anyway, with that said, we have a lot of other news to get to, so I won't waste any more of your time. Why don't we jump right into it? John Oliver just did his episode of Last Week Tonight concerning ICE and the insanity that's going on with mass deportation and all that. It's a great episode, you should definitely watch it. But on it, as just one part of the episode, he made fun of Dean Cain, who at one point was an actor or whatever. He was the worst Superman ever, I think, at this point, certainly in the 90s. And recently he got back into the news, on Fox News at least, because he had like joined ICE or whatever. I don't know. It's like Herschel Walker being a cop. It's like they pin like a plastic badge on his chest and he's very proud of himself. But anyway, what John Oliver said about Dean Cain made Dean Cain very, very angry. And I thought it was hilarious, so we're gonna talk about it. John Oliver said, you know, there's an old saying in Hollywood, if all you can get is Dean Cain, you are effed. I'm not saying that ICE isn't finding people. I'm just saying when you're reduced to pinning a badge on the 59-year-old star of the dog who saved Christmas, the dog who saved Christmas Vacation, the dog who saved the holidays, the dog who saved Halloween, the dog who saved Easter, and the dog who saved summer, maybe you're in trouble. Although on the plus side, no need for that guy to wear a mask because the chances of anyone recognizing him are effing zero, which is very funny. Except if you're him, he wasn't a fan of that. So he tweeted, he stole that mask joke from the internet. And let's just pause there very briefly, because like the idea that Dean Cain doesn't need a mask because people won't recognize him is not like such a specific and unique joke that John Oliver couldn't have thought of it independently. But even if he didn't, I love that Dean Cain's defense from this joke is, no, that's not funny. Everybody says I'm irrelevant, which is not really a defense when you think about it. And then he points out that John Oliver thought it was hysterical when Trump said he was gonna run for president. Case closed. And first of all, I think it should be hilarious when he decides to run for president. The fact that our country was so disgusting and base that they got him elected doesn't reflect poorly on John Oliver, it reflects poorly on the country. Also, by the way, I guarantee that if we go back, I'm not going to, because nobody should look up Dean Cain, and what he was saying about Trump in those first 6 months or so, there were a lot of these Republicans, I will remind you, that were just as dismissive and hated Trump and then eventually had to get on board to stay minimally relevant. It's entirely possible he's one of those. With that said though, and we'll get into more of what's going on with ICE, Jayar, what do you make of this and Dean Cain?
Yeah. He's paying attention now to what people are saying and the jokes that they're saying on the internet. Did he research and find if that joke was on the internet from before? Because he's been on it for a while. But for some reason, Dean Cain is laughing about people who are dismissing Donald Trump as president. But right now, if you pay attention, let's go ahead and be serious about what is it Donald Trump has been since he became president. How many people died, how he oversaw COVID and the destruction that it was there, how he's destroying people's lives financially now here and taking people off the streets, including Dean Cain, giving that promo video for adding more of these Gestapo type of people to their law enforcement force to destroy and snatch children from their mothers. That's what Dean Cain is now laughing about, Because, Dean Cain likes to joke about people's lives being completely screwed up by the guy that he's supporting because he's a loser, and then has to push these promo videos of superiority complexes on people so they can be a part of destroying Americans' lives. What is Dean Cain doing to help this country? Just laughing about people dismissing this guy? Or maybe scouring the internet for more jokes about how much of a piece of trash he is?
Yeah. By the way, so Dean Cain is apparently familiar with that episode of Last Week Tonight, where it's shown like, a 20-year ice cream truck guy was deported. Great member of the community gets deported, showing the brutality, the violations of the law, the fact that they're hiding their identity or whatever. And the only thing he thinks to comment on, the only thing that bothers him, is that they made fun of his stupid IMDb profile or whatever. That's he is that self-centered, actually. Meanwhile, by the way, the DHS is asking the POTUS for official permission to racially profile people for immigration. So they said in this request, apparent ethnicity can be a factor supporting reasonable suspicion in appropriate circumstances. And they go on to say that like speaking Spanish can be reasonable suspicion. All this is following on, by the way, Tom Homan, who said in a Fox News interview, people's appearance, their job, the language they're speaking, all of this is reasonable suspicion. They're basically just, and because of course they have to, they're sending people into neighborhoods, just talking to people and rounding them up. That's all they're doing. There's nothing but racial profiling going on here, okay? It's not even the job thing is a dodge. JR, if you and I were to go hang out in the parking lot of a Home Depot, we're not getting rounded up. It ain't that we look like day laborers. It's how the day laborers look that's resulting in them being thrown in the back of a Penske truck.
Yeah,
okay.
That's
so
how these things work.
Oh, sorry, your turn.
No, it's fine. So this is the thing. So based off of whatever it is that these guys want to do, as far as if you hear someone speaking Spanish, that's enough of a reason to start sweeping people up. Well, let's base it on actual facts, because based on actual facts, the most homegrown terrorists are white nationalists that form these militias and then spark attacks on American citizens and our institutions. That's actually a fact. So based off of that, we should be sweeping up white folks. If you see a white male of the right fighting appropriate age, they should be sweeping them up, because factually they're the group that does that. They'd be crying their baby asses off if that actually went down that way. But we're basing it off of a language being spoken is the reasons why they can take people's rights away. That's why they're distancing themselves as far as they can from facts and going to the false realities that Donald Trump and this MAGA party are putting together. Because factually, they're the most dangerous people in this country.
100%, 100%. Okay, I'm doing some quick behind the scenes math and thinking I don't think we're gonna get to all three, and I'm trying to wonder what we should save for tomorrow, because as a little bit of a tease for the audience, Senator Nina Turner is gonna be on the damage report tomorrow. Oh. So I'm thinking like maybe we save Bernie for, we'll say. You think maybe that? Yeah, okay. Well, why don't we go on with this next topic in the immigration block, and we'll see as we get closer. But this one I feel like JR is gonna have thoughts on. So let's jump into this. We're gonna stay on the topic of immigration. The owner of a Trump-themed burger chain thought that maybe with all of his support for Donald Trump and the, Trump-themed burger chain, he'd be protected from Trump's policies. But no, unfortunately, he has been detained in this mass deportation effort. If you're not familiar with what a Trump burger chain would be like, here's some photos. It's basically just a burger place with Trump everywhere you can fit it. His picture, and in here they've got the flag and his face. Maybe it's good for people who overeat. You want to see his face right before you order. That way you limit how much you buy. But anyway, this is Roland Bieny, a 28-year-old who entered the US as a non-immigrant visitor from Lebanon back in 2019 and was supposed to have left the country last February. Citing the DHS, a newspaper reported that Bieny applied for legal status after purportedly wedding a woman, but the agency maintained there is no proof he ever lived with her during the alleged marriage, which for some reason is required for this to be legal or whatever. I don't think they could live in different places. Donald Trump and Melania don't live together and haven't for years. Is she gonna be shipped out of the country or whatever? But again, always different standards for the dear leader than this guy. And so ICE said its officers arrested this guy back in May, 5 years after he launched the first of multiple Trump burger locations and placed him into immigration proceedings. He apparently denied ICE's charges against him, saying 90% of the they're saying is not true, which does still leave 10%. And I'm very curious which 10%. In any event, as of right now, he has an immigration court hearing on the 18th of November. I would say to him, don't go there. It's a trap. They're just shipping people out of those things, dude. Don't go to that hearing. In any event, he said he's endured threats for years because of his Trump burger. One burned down at one point, I guess, but it has a loyal following of, I'm gonna guess, MAGA people or whatever. And he said at one point, I would love to have Trump's blessings and have him come by. We're hoping that he sees the place. Well, he didn't, but his secret police did, unfortunately. And so this guy could well be deported. And I just wanna briefly mention, for better or worse, this is a 28-year-old who came over from Lebanon and in the span of 6 years has opened multiple restaurants. I feel like, as much as I don't like his politics or whatever, that's an entrepreneurial and apparently hardworking guy. I haven't opened a single burger joint in the last 6 years, and I'm unlikely to in the next 6 years. And so even if this guy wasn't sycophantic towards Trump and the MAGA world, he moved to Texas and he's setting up restaurants and everything. Why are you shipping this guy out? He's not a violent criminal. Again, this isn't the worst of the worst. It's just that, like, his decorations are. Jayar, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I know the first thought is to be like, F around, find out, we know the whole thing. That you vote for the guy, you love him, you support him, and then he goes and kicks your ass out. But I think this, rabid, dirty, filthy, illegal alien that they like to call people like him, I think he should look at the bright side. I mean, he's losing his businesses, I assume, unless they're getting passed on to someone else. But as his savior's tariffs kick in, the prices for him running there are gonna go way up anyway. It's probably better off that you get the hell out of here before you get caught up in the disaster that small business owners are gonna have to deal with, continuing as this guy's policies that you love so much continue to kick their asses out too.
Yeah, it's just like you could fill a book with just the deeply ironic deportations that they're doing of people that, man, they did everything they could for Donald Trump. Their whole personality was Donald Trump. Their whole business plan was Donald Trump. And there's never enough to save you. It's a reminder that the dude who was in that Jubilee thing with Mehdi Hassan, and he was like, well, how do you know that, like, the fascist leader's not gonna get you? And he's like, well, I'm not gonna be one of the ones that's killed. Dude, no, there's no protection deep enough. Like, you could be in Trump's cabinet. He ejects those people out and then opens them up. Fauci was in his administration. He has to have bodyguards for the rest of his life. Like, that's what this sort of regime is like. And so I feel bad for this guy. The worst crime he seems to have committed is not having a traditional marriage. And again, Donald Trump has kind of been a pioneer in that area his entire life. Anyway, with that said, why don't we move ahead to H, because there's quite a bit in this. We want to make sure that we get to as much of it as we can. I'll remind you that a recent Gallup poll showed that Elon Musk was literally the least liked public figure in America. And what we're gonna talk about in this story is probably only gonna make him even less beloved, because working conditions at one of the Tesla manufacturing plants in Fremont, California, which have always been bad, we're now learning are even worse than we thought thanks to a lawsuit. It's 159 pages, chock full of eye-popping details that we're gonna run you through a bunch of them. There's Orzel Murray is a former Fresno police officer in charge of security there. It's a big factory, 22,000 people. He claims that he and his team routinely seized cocaine and fentanyl on site, confiscated guns discovered in the building, investigated acts of sexual deviance on Tesla's grounds. And he doesn't just mean like Elon Musk mass DMing people that he wants to impregnate them. It's other stuff too. And at regular intervals, pulled employees off the manufacturing line and sent them home for being alcohol intoxicated and high on drugs. And there's a lot more we're gonna get to it, the racist stuff, but just on the drugs, we have been led to believe that there is nothing too far to do in terms of stopping fentanyl in America. You can do literally anything you want. And yet apparently Tesla factories are just like chock full of fentanyl. And by the way, they're going through and they're pulling people off the line if they're high on drugs. Well, I know for a fact that Elon Musk has walked around in there. Why is he not being hassled by security? That dude is high as a kite 24/7. And yet for some reason, the standards we have for the peasants assembling the cars are very different than the standards we have for the CEO just looking at them from time to time. Now, that said, there's been a lot of reporting inside of the company about these issues, and you know what happens to the people who do the reporting? They get fired or they're forced to resign because Elon Musk doesn't care and he doesn't want to fix these problems. He's just not interested. It's very similar to the way that Donald Trump deals with information coming out that he doesn't like. He just fires the messenger, which is not just petty and maybe illegal. It's also a sign of a really bad manager and a really bad boss, that you care more about keeping things quiet and not rocking the boat than actually fixing the pervasive problems that you have. And just a reminder, I sort of alluded to this, Musk is a frequent visitor to the facility. He goes there, he talks to people, he handles some of these conflicts individually. So I'm sure he is very well aware of all of these problems, and yet they persist because he doesn't seem to consider them problems at all. Now we're gonna move to the racism and stuff in a minute, but JR, I just wanted to give you a chance to comment on the drugs and all that.
Like, how much more of an illustration of this? I mean, outside the fact that all of these losers in this administration are absolutely unqualified for the jobs that they do, while they demean other people and call them, less low IQ'd people, and then they have no work ethic and all this stuff that they say about people that they demonize, when in reality it's constant projection. The drug addicts and drug dealers. So as he chocks himself full of all those drugs, and then they complain about, all the drugs that are flowing through all the borders. They're the ones that are consuming it. They're the ones that have horrible work ethic. They're the ones that don't follow through on things. I mean, you can trust the manufacturing put together of Teslas coming out of this Fremont factory when guys are high and drunk as they're putting it together. I mean, I guess the automated way they're going about this now, because it's a robot company now. Whoever's putting this together, you can't trust with your life in these cars that we've seen some of the issues that they've got. So at least we've got some answers behind that. But so we see why they're against diversity and equity and everything. It's because they don't want the competition because they know they suck.
100%. And look, as bad as all of that is, some of the stuff I feel is worse. So the complaint in this lawsuit says that a significant portion of the car makers' hastily hired and poorly vetted workforce are blatant racists and misogynists. And that is not just like, I don't know, extreme woke complaining. They've got the citations. So many who've worked there have likened the workplace to the Jim Crow South, an environment in which black employees and brown-skinned workers are besieged with constant racial abuse, stereotyping, and hostility, including with the repeated use of the N-word. According to the complaint, black employees have reported regularly encountering nooses on desks, and some photos were included in the report of these nooses, as well as other equipment, and seeing the N-word graffitied on walls, in bathroom stalls, elevators, even on new Tesla vehicles rolling off of the production line, which that feels like an issue. I don't think I'd want that on my car, and yet that's what they're doing. None of the issues were ever taken care of. They say they have zero tolerance for like drugs and stuff, but not when it comes to the racism. In fact, they talked to their employees at one point and apparently told them that this is the culture, and if you are black, you just have to understand that. And if that's going to be a problem for you, then you're not going to be able to work here. So they would, it's just DEI for racists, basically saying, we're going to allow you to act as if, it's the 1840s or whatever here. And if you have a problem with that, then just you have no federal protections, no consideration of civil rights or anything like that, JR. And these, by the way, the racism in particular, these reports have been coming out for years and years, and apparently it has never been dealt with there.
That's where you get the benefit from here. You benefit from being the worst people in this country. As they talk about bring it back and take America back and make America great again, this is how things were always run before. As they deny the systematic racism and institutional racism within this country, let's make sure they keep people that are qualified, more qualified for positions to do things way better than they could. The system is just open now. I mean, they're back to being as open as they could about it. You just have to accept the racism and the absolute misogyny that's going on, but they have no fear of a punch to their nose. And I think we may have to get there at some point soon again.
Yeah. By the way,
I'm sorry. I'm on the anger violent streak lately.
I get it. I don't have a problem with it. So I've been pretty critical, and I'll end on this. I've been pretty critical of Elon Musk for not being willing to do anything to stop this. But I do want to give him credit for one thing, because it mentions that at one point, people who did some of these issues would be fired, but then just brought back as temps, so they don't have to go through the background check, so they just keep working there anyway. And it says in the Independent article that they were doing this because of, this is graphic 5, because of sky high demand for Tesla vehicles at the time. And so standards had to be lowered because of how popular Tesla vehicles were. And so I do want to give credit to Elon Musk for making Tesla a far less appealing brand, lowering the demand for the vehicles, and now they can start to raise their standards a little bit because nobody wants to buy their stupid Cybertruck. So thank you, Elon Musk, for everything you've done to tank Tesla's good name.
And just last reminder, John, are people still gonna wonder if he was actually giving a Heil Hitler salute at the inauguration when we see all about who he really is? Let's stop arguing with fascists.
Yeah, and we keep it in our intro to this day. Anyway, with that said, that's all the time we have for the show. Jayar, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here, fresh off of the watch party. Thank you. Where can people see you?
Catch me on the watch parties on the watch list every Monday. We do it at noon Eastern, and of course, we put those stories back up on this page later. You guys can like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Well, tomorrow, Senator Nina Turner, very exciting. We're gonna have a lot of fun breaking down not only the news, but also we wanted to discuss this Bernie Sanders interview. We're gonna have that with Nina tomorrow. So definitely come for that. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.